about like fitness and stuff like?
So you keep fit yourself, clearly.
Yeah.
Tell me what you do then.
Yeah, I probably try and train 2-3 times a week if I can. But I always try and sort of like, I'll always try and sort of like from home.
Yeah.
Try and,
do you train at a gym or do you train?
Yeah, so I'll go to a gym to
Okay.
like proper train, boxing or weights, or cardio, or go on a run.
Yeah.
Do like to take my son for a run actually.
Nice.
Yeah,
Saw that. You got his own little Instagram profile, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is he into sport?
Yeah, he's like big on his football,
Yeah.
gymnastics.
Nice.
He's one of those typical kids where if you don't get him outside and just get him out running, he's just
sounds like me.
Absolutely
When
not.
I was like that, Mum used to go crazy because especially when I was in twos group, I used to literally run around and punch the girls.
Oh, nice.
So imagine being a mum there and your little 2-year-old is running around punching other parents' girls. Yeah, exactly. So
Interesting.
just purely not like physical, but just like that almost. So like, literally just used to have to run around everywhere, and then especially when they're that age, like because again I kind of work with kind of younger guys, from a sporting perspective, kind of like from the ages of 10 up to kind of 22 really. And I think the key thing is just getting them doing everything. Like doing as much as possible. Like if I look at myself, like when I was between the ages of 7 and 15, I was playing football, rugby, cricket, squash, tennis, badminton, everything. Just get doing as much as possible, and loved it. And then you can kind of look at the kind of fitness side of things, but just getting them enjoying the sport.
Yeah, I think sports are a really good way to sort of engage them. But anyway, let's introduce you to. Hi everyone. My name is Akil Beckford. This is Callum Walker, and this is the first episode of the ViDERE podcast. So, welcome. Glad you guys are here to join us. Basically, what we're going to do today, we're going to do a quick demonstration. Callum's basically, I met Callum about maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and he was telling me he was thinking about setting up a goldfish bowl, and I was like, well, there's 2 ways of doing it. You can either set up a goldfish bowl where it's like you have problems, or you have fish coming belly up 2 weeks down the line, or you can set up an actual natural proper ecosystem and sort of do it properly. So,
well, it's funny how we kind of got onto that because it's spooky how these things happen. Because I don't know if you remember, but literally the day before I met you, first time I met you, me and my close friend, so Henry, we both agreed we were going to get a fish. I said, right, okay, I'll have one goldfish and you have another goldfish. We'll name them similar names, so it's almost like kindred spirits. And then literally walk into my dad's office and you're there. And I come in and go, I'm getting a goldfish. You don't want one of those. Yeah. You want one of these done as something genuinely cool and funky.
Do it properly, man. Yeah, goldfish are really, they're really messy. They're really more suitable for like large bodies of water, like a pond. Yeah. Keep them outside. Stay away from keeping them in bowls and fish tanks. Yeah, not at all. So, the reason why I wanted to sort of have a chat with you, I think like, having spoken to you a few weeks back and sort of hearing a bit more about you and what you do, I thought it would be really interesting for you to sort of share some of, your insights, what you do, and just I think you would actually sort of create a lot of value in that space of sort of well-being and just helping people live a better version of their life. So tell me about your origins, so ready to start off.
Right, so I'm a performance nutritionist.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I am at the moment. So I mainly work with people on a one-to-one basis or a group basis. So I specialise mainly in athletic performance, so working with athletes to get the most out of their performance. But then also I run my own weight management program. So there's like multiple sides to my business. So I've got working with athletes, kind of various sports clubs or athletes on a one-to-one basis, working with people on a private point of view. So, business owners, executives, that sort of thing on, looking after them from a health perspective. So whether they want to lose weight or, kind of the opposite, put on some form of muscle mass or just genuinely eat better. Yeah. Whether they've got, kind of any form of health issues or anything like that, I can help them out from a food perspective. Yeah. Then I think kind of where like the link kind of ties in, I've done some form of corporate work as well from a corporate well-being point of view. Where, especially when you look at like a workforce, for example, they're essentially, the most important tools in a business. I kind of like to use the analogy that you wouldn't have a chef cooking with a blunt knife.
No, not at all.
No. So you want to make your knife as sharp as possible. Yeah. And again, where I kind of fit in, especially from a cognitive performance point of view. So, if you look at what happens in an office around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, people start to nod off and they're yawning, aren't they? They feel sluggish, lethargic, tired. Even if they've had a good night's sleep the night before, they're like, purely because of the food that they're eating. So, purely from following a poor diet, your cognitive performance can actually drop by between 30 and 40%.
That's mad. So a lot of people normally associate your diet with like
looking good.
How you look and how your physical feel. So it's like actually ties into sort of your mental state.
100%. You look at Christmas dinner, for example. What happens 2 hours later?
Snoozing. 45 minutes in me.
Yeah, that could be the wine, but then also, it's a very heavy meal. So you find that in an office where, every single office you walk into, between the hours of 2 and 4, people are yawning, and then also they start to get hungry again, and then that's where they go and the biscuit tin comes out, someone comes around with cakes, etc., and you're just kind of fueling that vicious cycle. However, if you can actually improve the efficiency of someone's performance, again, like I said, 30-40% decrease in your own mental performance. You imagine adding an additional 30-40% productivity to a business or your own life just from changing the food you eat. Yeah, and that's just a small chunk.
And I think that's where I've found sort of my link with you quite interesting, because I'm really big on sort of creating that, improving that well-being space, that physical environment where people work in, and again having that sort of that positive impact in terms of how they perform within the workspace. And I'm massive. It's a big area that a lot of companies are really looking at. Is how do we improve not just the sort of social environment, but the physical environment, and enable that, and sort of use that to enable people to be better.
But it's the same with again, I go back to the sporting perspective. Like if you've got a team, for example, so cricketers. So I work a lot with cricketers. So almost like the main bulk of their training is their skills-based stuff, the fitness and that sort of thing. Now, by assessing their diet and getting that right, it gives them an extra 2-3%. Then you work with the psychologist, that gives them an extra 2-3%. You work with the strength and conditioning coach, that gives them an extra 2-3%. Before you know it, those 2-3% adds up to 10%. Same with your workforce. You change the food up, gives them an extra 2-3%. Put them in a more pleasurable working environment. Space, gives them an extra 2-3%.
So I remember there's that cyclist, what was his name? Chris Hoy from Scotland. Do you remember when they was talking about how they sort of built him up to break the records and win the gold medals, and it was just like 2% under some bike aerodynamics, 2% under.
Again, you look at Mo Farah, for example, when he runs his 10,000 meters, what does he win by? 2 seconds. He gets like a small thing wrong, then it has a massive impact in his performance. And it's the same with someone in a workforce. Now, kind of like how I got into everything, so from a nutritional point of view, bit of a long story, but a good story as well. So I've always loved my sport. Sport's just like me. Kind of when I was at school, I used to mess around purely because I was more interested in, my fixtures that I had and all that sort of thing.
I kind of discovered sports sort of later on in life, actually.
Grew up with it. My old man, my dad, massively into his sport. And then when I was younger, I was on the books at the ViDERE, so playing quite a high level of football, and then we changed countries and that sort of thing. But always been my life. And then kind of finished school. I was like, well, what do I do now? So I was like, well, I'll go to uni. That's what everyone else does. Not purely for the wrong reasons, just to go and have a good time, whatever. And then my mum was like, well, you've got to do a degree in this as well. So I was like, well, love my sport. How hard can a sports science degree be? It's like, it's a glorified PE degree. So I was like, go on, I'll do that. So, but I love that because again, kind of sports my thing. And I looked at going to my lectures more as I'm going there to learn how I can make myself perform better. If that makes sense. So, kind of, I fell in love with that. And I've always been a bit of a science nerd anyway.
So your journey, did it start from a more of a, this is what I'm interested in? And it was sort of like, how do I just sort of double down on that?
I think that's the key thing with anyone. What do you love?
That was 100% for me as well.
What do you love doing? I love fish. So make a business out of what I love.
Because my thing really started out as started off with a bowl probably a bit smaller than this, and it sort of the tanks just got bigger and bigger, and then I started, I suppose it kind of tied with my entrepreneurial sort of flair with me. When I was at uni, I just basically started setting up aquariums for people at local pet shops, and it just sort of snowballed from there. Obviously after I graduated.
Literally same thing with me, I think with anyone, partly why I got such a massive sort of outbreak of depression, anxiety is because people feel like they have to go to work because it's what they do, or go to work to go to work, as opposed to actually don't get me wrong, I have bad days, and I'm sure you have bad days.
100%.
But I go to work knowing that I don't feel like I'm going to work because I'm just doing something that I just love. Like I'm interacting with people. Again, kind of from a food perspective. So, like I said, so I finished my first degree in sports science, so specialising in strength and conditioning mainly. But I did my dissertation on nutritional strategies for an athlete. So specifically to do with protein intake and how to maximise, muscle mass and all that sort of stuff. So I got first in that somehow. Very last minute deadline.
Yeah.
A lot of phone calls crying to mum. I remember I was sat on the stairs in the library, genuinely like I'd left so much to the last minute.
Yeah.
I'd had no sleep and I'm calling my mum. I've got 3 hours to submit this deadline. I was like, Mum, I'm going to be working in WH Smith. Like, it's done. Like, I'm doing it. And then, you once you set your mind to it, you get it done, don't you? So then I finished that, got a first in my dissertation, and then I got offered a scholarship to do a master's degree in performance nutrition. Now, I've always loved my cooking. So when I was younger, so I did my Duke of Edinburgh Award, and me and my mum, part of like my skill, I learned how to cook, fell in love with it, and then anyway, so I did my master's in performance nutrition, so working with athletes, kind of to optimize their performance. Graduated with the first in that, and then was like, well, what do I do? No idea. So I did what everyone else did and applied for a job that has absolutely nothing to do with what I've done for the last 4 years. So I was like, I'll go and become a salesman.
That's one of the things I love about just being an entrepreneur. It kind of, you sort of create your own job, don't you? You create your own opportunities where sometimes there's not necessarily a company or an opportunity necessarily there for you to sort of slot into perfectly.
Yeah, because it was like...
A lot of people that I went to university with, either went on to go into teaching or actually going into a sales job or something completely remotely different to anything.
No idea like where you go with it. Yeah, okay, right, I got these 2 degrees. What do I do with them? Like, how do I monetize it essentially? Like, make it into a living?
Do what you love.
Yeah,
so it's earning your money, but then doing it while
so I kind of felt like I only really had a couple of options. I go into the NHS and then pursue a career that way, which I didn't want to do, or most people go into looking after sports clubs. Now, normally it gives you about you need at least 6 or 7 years experience to get into a sports club. Okay. So I've kind of been lucky on my journey as well, kind of how I got to where I am at the moment. But essentially, like I said, I was applying for jobs that had nothing to do with what I was doing. I'm getting nowhere because it's just like, well, why are you applying for a sales job when you've got masters in nutrition? And then my uncle, bless him, he was like, look, can you just help me lose a little bit of weight? So, of course, kind of ties in because how I understood the weight loss side of things, you can't have no weight athlete. So essentially, use the optimal strategies to burn fat with an athlete and apply it to your everyday Joe. So I said, so he's a middle-aged man, 50, showed him what he needed to do in the gym, showed him what he needed to do in the kitchen, taught him exactly why he needed to eat what he did, and he lost 2.5 stone. So I was like, well,
was that there?
Why don't I just do this for a job?
So I think it's interesting, like for me as well, like I started doing what I do and it was like, oh, I love fish. And I think at some point, maybe 2 or 3 years after I left university, I made the shift from I like doing what I do because I like working with fish to I like doing what I do because I like the impact that the aquariums and the features that I create have on the people that interact with them. So it's almost that, and I think when you get from that shift from all about me to all about everyone else, I think it makes a massive difference.
I'm really fortunate in what I do, in that I get a lot of satisfaction from it because it's not like, oh, you lost 2 stone, well done. It's the impact it actually has on that person. I've had people sat opposite me like crying, when I first start off about how they're not in a good place, how they're not happy with how they look, how they feel. And don't get me wrong, 9 times out of the 10, they're not exactly being great from a dietary perspective, but there's so many other factors that, kind of throw in.
It's not just diet, is it?
Yeah, well, to an extent, from a weight loss perspective, most of the time it is, like it's a poor diet, or they're following poor advice. So they're following the advice to a T, but it's just rubbish advice. And that's kind of the problem.
So for me, like diet for me was like, my understanding of diet is more about the psychology of it in terms of how people, like,
how you stick to it.
Yeah, and how do you sort of get onto it in the first place? But for me, like, I remember a few months ago actually, I was speaking to this sort of personal trainer. She really clicked a light bulb with me, and she was like, people have an addiction to sugar. It's not because it's not because they're addicted to sugar itself. It's just the endorphins that you get when you consume
and that's
the sugar.
A physical response.
It
because
is, yeah.
essentially, I won't go too crazy because we've only got a short period of time. But basically, the body's like a car that can run on petrol, it can run on diesel. I.e., the body runs on carbs or it runs on fat. Okay. Now, all your food is essentially an instruction to the body what I want it to use as a source of fuel. So by eating carbs, what am I telling the body to use? Carbs. Yeah. But I want it to run on fat, so what do I give it? Fat.
Okay.
Body's like a car, run on petrol or diesel. Whatever I pump into this car, it's going to use. I pump it full of petrol, the car's going to run on petrol. But if I want it to run on diesel, I've got to give it diesel. And this is one of the main issues, that the thing is, as soon as you take on some form of carbohydrate, specifically simple carbs, mainly simple carbs like sugar, blocks access to your fat stores. Because by eating that sugar, I'm telling the body to run on carbs. So what am I telling it not to run on? Fat.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the way that we should eat, we've got to look at it from an evolutionary perspective, where essentially we're animals. So I'm programmed to be sat in a cave all day and not know if I'm actually ever going to get a meal again. So let's say if we had an apocalypse now, supermarkets, restaurants, bars, and I had to physically go out and find some food right now, how often would you eat?
Well, you'd probably be...
No idea.
Yeah.
It could be like 5 times a day, it could be 5 times a month. No idea. So my body is actually programmed to not know if it's ever going to get another meal again.
Yeah.
So
I hear
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the thing is that if I'm tucking into my fat stores, the body looks at that as, well, I might never eat again. I'm running on my last reserves. I might never stop this flow. So if I continue to do this, eventually I'm going to run out of fuel, shut down and die. Yeah? Because I'm going to continue running on my backup stores and eventually run out of fuel. So if you're sat on a desert island and you've got no food, eventually you'll die of starvation. That's because your body's run out of fuel. Now, the minute you take on some form of sugar, you stop the body from tucking into its fat stores. So the body looks at that as, you're keeping me alive, i.e. you're stopping me from tucking into my fat stores. So we don't like that because we put body fat on, but the body likes it because it looks at it as, you're stopping me from running on my reserves.
So is that why you get that positive...
It makes you feel good.
Right.
Because, and there's a performance benefit to this in the athletics scene. Have you ever seen like footballers, for example, like spitting their drink out on telly? And you look at them and you're like, oh, what's he doing? Well, half of them have done it because they just think they look cool. But then also, there's a genuine performance benefit to it, because the thing is that any form of exercise under 90 minutes, the body's got enough fuel on itself to be able to carry that exercise. If we look at a footballer, for example, you play for 90 minutes, So the body's got enough fuel during that 90 minutes inside itself to be able to carry on with that exercise. But the body doesn't know that the game has a 90-minute time limit. I know it, but my body doesn't. Now, the thing is that you don't really want to eat any form of food during that sort of exercise because it's uncomfortable. Like, I wouldn't go and nail a big bowl of pasta halfway through a game. So, kind of eating while you're performing can be really uncomfortable. But what you have receptors in your mouth that pick up the presence of glucose, i.e. sugar. So what you do is you swill it around your mouth and spit it out. Now, those receptors immediately are linked to the pleasure center of the brain, which tell the brain, don't worry, we've got fuel coming on. Makes you feel good, and it actually allows you to perform significantly better. So how I learned that was at university. I had to do a research study. So I had to do a 40k time trial. So I was on a bike and I had to do 40 kilometers as fast as possible. So I did it when swilling around a placebo, so like just a sweetened beverage. And then I did it again at another time, swilling around some form of sugar, like a Lucozade, every 10 minutes and spitting that out. Now, purely because I swilled it around my mouth and spat it out, I cycled 2 minutes quicker.
Wow.
I haven't eaten anything.
So the body's just...
because it's those endorphins. It makes you feel good. So essentially, like I said, go back to the sugar addiction, kind of a long-winded answer, that those receptors, have you ever had that feeling at some point in the day where you're just like, God, I just need to get some food. I can't focus on anything else until you feed me. That's the brain in a fuel crisis because your blood sugar levels have dropped. Now, the brain is the only organ in the whole body that can only get its energy from your blood sugars. So the minute your blood sugar levels drop, the amount of fuel available to the brain drops. Without the brain, body dies. So the brain looks at it as, I might never eat again. You have to go out and find me some food. Nothing else matters in this world apart from feeding me. So you get that feeling of I can't eat. I'll talk to you in a second. Just let me just go and eat something. And what do they normally go for? Some chocolate, some biscuits, and you immediately feel better. You're like, oh, right, okay, I feel so much better. Now, the thing is, it actually takes 2 to 3 hours for that food to digest. So actually, it's just sat in your stomach. It's just sat here. It hasn't actually gone to your brain, but those receptors pick it up straight to the brain, makes you feel good. And then what do you keep going out and getting? Sugar. So people become addicted to it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think like it's interesting you're talking to me about this sort of evolutionary perspective, because I kind of have a similar sort of thesis or theory based on what I do, because you know we're naturally sort of drawn to natural spaces, beautiful sort of forms of art and nature, and that just dates back to our evolutionary brain associating, you know, water, greenery, bright colours and movement as sort of sources of resources.
Well, it's like if you've ever had a bad day, you go out for a walk outside, you immediately feel better.
You feel safer, don't you?
Yeah, like
and that's the brain telling you that
this is where you should be.
This is where you should be.
It's like, you know, I look at it, I've got my own little kind of like as a family almost. We've got our own little special place almost. Yeah. So there's I don't get too philosophical. There's a park by us, so we've got a bench actually for like my nan and granddad and my other nan as well. But just the park itself is a beautiful little lake, and if ever I've had a bad day, I'll just go there.
So is that where you go to connect with nature?
Oh, 100%. Is
that your go-to sort of your spot?
I just like put some music on, but really like, you know, no words or anything, just really kind of like chilled, calm music. I'll just sit on that bench, just look over the water, and it's almost like everything's going to be all right. Do you know what I mean? And you just get that feeling of, okay.
I used to get that. I used to get the exact same feeling. But I used to just get it when I used to look into my aquarium or my fish tanks.
You imagine having that in an office?
Well, I used to have this in my home, and that was how I sort of like sink back into nature and sort of got my mind right. I would literally just sit in front of my tank and or my bowl of water and just look at it.
It kind of like allows you to just step back and realise that, right, okay, it's like your mind is racing, like, you know, you kind of...
Sorry, am I interrupting?
It's fine, we can cut it.
Sorry?
I'm going out for 5 minutes. Alright, I'll be back. I'm going to go next door with somebody.
Okay.
Have a quick drink. Alright, so
Alright,
I'll go downstairs.
Alright, super.
No rush.
What was I saying? Yes, it's almost like, you know, you can take a step back and realise that, okay, yeah, I've got all these stresses, I've got this, and this, but actually, it's all made up. And actually, when I sit back,
perspective, isn't it?
I'm just an animal. I'm looking at this little fish just floating around and going, right, okay, actually, you know, I feel safer again.
Well, that fish is moving to nature's rhythm. And that effectively, you looking at that fish and you spending time looking at that natural sort of space sinks you back into that natural state, and it reduces your anxieties and helps you think more clearly about whatever. Because when you're anxious and you're stressed, you can't. All you can think about is tunnel vision, isn't it? So all you can think about is what's coming up next, what's right in front of you. And obviously, when you're more in a more relaxed state, you can be more creative. You can
think clearly,
think more expansively about and be more strategic and sort of plan forward.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get started with this
because we'll ram it on from there.
Some rocks I got out of an actual live aquarium. So what this will have is microorganisms literally sitting on top of it and inside of it, which basically creates the ecosystem within the tank.
Awesome.
So we're kind of like giving the aquarium a bit of a head start, because normally it takes about 3 or 4 weeks for this sort of community of microorganisms to establish.
So there's going to be living things on that rock.
It's on that rock, inside that rock, every surface within the bowl.
Proper ecosystem. So we've got this aquatic soil here. This basically is the stuff that the fish will live in. I mean, not the fish, the plants will live in. Okay.
And then we've got some sand here. So what we'll do is we'll put some of the sand. Oops. Button. this aquatic soil actually come out of an established tank along with this sand.
Okay.
The idea is that if you can basically give this bowl as much of a jump start as possible, it will help overcome what you normally get, which is that initial breaking in period within the tank. And I've actually discovered this technique of using sand and aquatic soil from an aquascaper called George Farmer. He's actually really, really good.
On social media?
Yeah, he's on social media, definitely. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel on the bottom of the link. And yeah, so he basically, normally what you do in the aquarium is you have a filter that basically processes the water through.
I was about to ask you.
But this one is what we call, this technique is what we call a low tech.
Okay.
So basically there's no filter, there's no heater, there's no CO2.
So it does it all itself, right? I assume the plants will give the CO2, surely, won't
yeah,
they?
so we're literally sort of recreating a natural an ecosystem setup. So I like to call these, I call these sports like a biosphere.
Yeah.
Because we're literally creating an ecosystem from scratch. We're using kind of the principles of what you see clearly in nature. So what we've got here, we've got some stem plants, some hybrophilia, which will grow quite well. So the idea is that we plant it quite heavily to give the plants the best possible chance of establishing themselves and to outcompete any possible algae that we'll have growing. So we've got some bacopa and some hydrocotyle. So I think we'll probably just use it, and then we've got some hair grass as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll basically plant a few of the stem plants around the centre with plus some. Well, these are called Amazon swords or Echinodorus. They're really, really good, easy growing plants. Don't need a huge amount of
love.
No, the whole idea of this is I want you to basically be able to take this home and just
let it chill.
Let it chill. You'll need to change the water like about say 50% to 60% of the water once.
How often?
Once a week, I would say.
So holidays wise. So if I'm away, I need to get someone to.
Well, for the first say 6 weeks, that's what you'll need to do to get yourself to basically get everything. So once the plants are growing and everything's settled in, that will be what you need to do. And once everything's settled in and it's established, then you won't necessarily need to be as intensive with your maintenance. But it'll be a good idea to keep up with that, just to keep it nice and
alive,
clean more than anything. Because what you don't want is the algae to sort of start out competing.
It goes all,
the plant and it starts going all. That's very, very, very good looking. So we're going to put some of these rocks in the centre.
Cool.
So whilst I'm doing this, would you just tell me a bit more about sort of your work within the well-being and the corporate world? Because obviously I understand you've got your sports science background and you work with with like athletes and sports professionals, but obviously the main reason why I'm interested in sort of the stuff that you do is more sort of like the well-being aspects of it.
So like when I briefly touched on like the cognitive performance element to it, but then also if you think about how much it costs a business with people being off sick, from a point of view from absenteeism, where it's not necessarily just about the person not being there and then I've got to pay them X amount of money even when they're not there. It's also the cost of having to find someone to replace them to do that job, etc. So again, from a food perspective, we touched on right at the start, it's not just about how you look. Actually, if you can enhance someone's immune system through the right sort of foods, then they're less likely to get ill. So if I look at myself, I eat pretty well. I follow exactly everything that I put together for my clients, but I never get ill, which means that myself, I can then perform and be at work almost. And it's the same with the workplace, that if you can kind of enhance someone's immune system so they're less likely to take days off or be ill, then also you can enhance their cognitive performance. It all comes together and actually improves the overall efficiency of a workforce. So it was last year, so Pinsent Mason Solicitors, for example, so went in, did a big talk all about that on how you can actually keep yourself healthy and well within the workplace, but then also outside the workplace as well. So looking at kind of like, as opposed to having biscuits, cakes, chocolates, etc. flying around. Actually, it all starts with education. As opposed to telling someone what to do, you need to actually tell them why they need to do this almost, to essentially transfer my knowledge over to the person that I'm working with. So solicitors firms are very hot on it, because again, if you look at the nature of the work anyway, it's very stressful, it's very long hours, a lot of time is spent in the office, and again, kind of not just from a weight perspective, where their weight might creep on because they're sat down at a desk all day, they're just munching on food, but then also that has a real negative effect on their health, which means that they'll then eventually start missing days off work, etc., start to take certain types of medication. So especially from a food perspective, you look at things like type 2 diabetes now, like that's rife massively.
Yeah, because you got a client that you'd worked with, that you actually cure his diabetes.
Reverse it. Yes, so the thing is, this information is available to everyone. If you think about how much it costs the NHS, for example, on metformin, insulin, etc., from a problem which can be easily catered for purely from just changing the kind of food that he was eating. So I look at this client, very close friend of mine now. So he was a big guy actually at the time when he first started. And essentially the diabetic nurse had said, look, you're type 2 diabetic, we need to kind of start you on this and this. So called me up, so I've known him for years anyway, and said, look, they've just said this, what should I do? And I said, look, I'm not a doctor. If they're saying go on meds, go on your medication, that's not my place. But ask them if you can manage it from a lifestyle perspective. Just say, look, can you just give me 3 months to change my lifestyle, see what happens? If nothing good comes of it, then of course, I'll go on to it. So ask her that. If she says, no, you need to go on a meds, go on your meds. But if not, there's a certain type of eating, i.e. a certain way of eating, which has shown massive promise in reversing type 2 diabetes.
I've heard that before, actually.
Yeah, so...
is it the type 1 that you can't reverse?
Yeah, so that's completely different. So essentially type 2 is when your body's still producing insulin, but it just ignores it.
It's not
essentially.
sensitive to it, is it?
No, yeah. So it kind of goes up in stages almost. So you develop something called insulin resistance, where you're pumping out quite a lot of insulin, but the body's not really responding to it.
And that's just because of too much
excess carbohydrates. Sometimes there's a genetic element to it.
Okay.
When I say carbohydrates, like it's not that carbs are the enemy. But you look at kind of like your refined carbs now, so like anything white pasta, white bread, your sugary cereals, sugar in your tea, etc.
So this is really simple stuff. That's the issue.
Yeah, and again, like there's this massive war on carbs almost. That like again, when it comes to a way of eating, regardless of whether it's for an athlete, a business person, someone in the workplace, or just your everyday Joe who just wants to eat well, it's got to be sustainable. So there's so many different diets out there where it's just like cut this out, cut this out, cut this out. And it works for a period of time, but it's not realistic.
Yeah, because sometimes I find like there's like this whole like don't eat carbs, but then like surely is it really the focus should be about having just a balanced diet?
To an extent. So if I look at this guy, I use something called a ketogenic diet, tied in with intermittent fasting. So he went through periods of time without eating, which basically gives insulin a break, and it can repair your tolerance to insulin.
Really?
And then also the kind of foods he was eating, they were very high in the right types of fat, moderate in protein, and there was a very, very low carb consumption. You're looking at between 15 and 20 grams of carbs per day, which was coming mainly just from like the veg that he was eating, really.
Right.
So essentially, it gives you the ability to still eat without stimulating insulin, i.e. giving it a break and allowing the body to just repair its tolerance. So
is intermittent fasting something that you recommend that most people should do every so often?
See, most people's a dangerous word there, because it depends on what your aim is. Kind of, if you look at like the fasting perspective, there's absolutely nothing wrong with fasting. If you go to a doctor, for example, and you have to have a blood test, what they tell you to do? I need you to fast, and this needs to be fasted blood.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely safe and fine to do, but people use it the wrong way. They use it in the way that they fast, which they think allows them to compensate for nailing 10, 15 pints almost. Right. So they kind of, when it comes to intermittent fasting, it's absolutely fine, but it's actually more about what you eat when you do break your fast. So you make sure that the food you're eating backs up the hard work that you've put in while you're fasting almost.
Right.
So essentially, kind of, I go back to this guy. So this guy, he's a very close friend now. So essentially, like his blood sugar levels were up at like, at 11, 12. And the minute that your blood sugar levels kind of creep over 7, that's diabetes kicking in really. So within 6 weeks, he'd lost a significant amount of weight, but then also his type 2, i.e. his blood sugar levels are completely normalized in, kind of the 5 to 6 range. And then that was 18 months ago now, not 18 months, 12 months ago. So he's lost 6.5 stone, but then also he's recently gone to a diabetic clinic. And his HbA1c has come down to completely normal, so that's gone away. But again, I go back to like the workplace side of things, that's massive. If someone's blood sugar levels are going up and down throughout the day, they focus more on their diabetes and their blood sugar as opposed to the work that they've actually got to do. Right. So it's almost kind of, I look at food as well as taking away a problem, i.e. the less problems that we have, the happier we are, and we can focus on other things. It's kind of that sort of like process of elimination. So if someone's not worried about their weight anymore, i.e. if someone's kind of just more interested in how they look and how they feel, they could be spending the whole day in the workplace going, well, I hate the way I look, I'm overweight, I've let myself go and blah, blah.
It's that positive mindset has a massive sort of effect on sort of how they
perceive themselves. That's right, and that radiates, doesn't it? So if you're a salesperson and you're not happy with how you look, or how you feel, you lose that confidence physically. Well,
people pick up a vibe, aren't they?
Yeah, you're not going to make that sale, are you? Because it's, you're not, again, sales is all about the transference of confidence, that I'm completely confident in myself and also what I have, and I need to transfer that confidence and certainty over to you. Yeah. So if I'm not completely confident and certain in what I have, then you're not going to pick up on that, are you? So
it's funny, so as you've sort of like gone more into this world of like working with the corporate industry, working with actually a large business, have you sort of seen yourself transfer your focus from actually just, instead of looking less at the mechanics of what you do, and actually is more of a focus on the actual impact it has on sort of on the individual?
You see things differently. I look at myself as a person now versus where I was when I first started up. I think completely differently now. Kind of like looking at kind of motive almost to anything. Like, kind of, we spoke when we first met about this sort of stuff, that like, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? And how does this actually impact on my life? So again, I kind of look at like, my eating goes hand in hand with my business almost. So because I'm disciplined with my eating, I'm naturally then disciplined with my business. Because it's almost like I'm in this state of discipline from a food perspective, so I'm naturally in a state of discipline when it comes to, my business almost. So, 100%. And then also kind of like, delved into, I think once you kind of got the science behind it, again, I never stopped learning from that point. I think a danger is that people come out of school or university and they go, right, okay, I'm done now, my education is done, I don't need to learn anything more about nutrition. And that's where a lot of people I've met are kind of stuck in like, the textbook that was written 20 years ago, as opposed to keeping up with it. But then, more importantly, what I've kind of managed to switch my focus on is the psychology behind it, i.e., how does my mind actually kind of look at this process? So when it comes to like, whether someone wants to lose weight, for example, it's I find that when someone goes through that process, they don't just show me, oh, well done, he's lost weight. They actually show the qualities that they have. Almost that they've recognized that they're somewhere where they don't want to be. I'm overweight, I'm not happy with how I look. And instead of just sitting there and crying about it and blaming everyone else, they've gone, right, I'm actually going to do something about it. I've showed determination, I've showed the ability to sacrifice things and have that persistent...
It's like people talk about like soft skills, but I think your self-esteem massively kind of sort of impacts on how you interact with people. And like having that self-confidence within yourself and feeling sort of safe to kind of...
And it's in control almost. It's like,
absolutely.
Again, go back to the positive mindset side of things, that everything else in the world in my life might be really rubbish right now. I'm stressed, I'm upset, everything's just like rubbish. But at least I have control over one thing, which is myself, i.e. my diet. Do you know what I mean? And then it's the same with like, you might have had a really bad day, a bad morning. You might have had an argument with your spouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if you come into a workplace which is almost just like a grid, where you just go and sit at your little station, you're staring at a brick wall, you're just going to stay sad, depressed, and in that negative state. However, if you go in, there's people smiling, everyone else has got that sort of, that positive vibe almost. You've got nature surrounding you, you're looking at some nice fish, you're like, okay,
Makes a massive difference.
100%, yeah. It's almost like going outside, but inside. So when we spoke about kind of like going outside and being able to like connect with nature in that sense, you got the same thing inside.
Yeah, because you go to there's a really really cool company called Uncommon Spaces. Have you heard of them in London?
No.
And they've really they've gone to town with sort of the way they've incorporated biophilic, which is sort of like elements of nature incorporated into the space. They've gone to town with how they've sort of used that as a way to make the space just work for the people who are working in there.
Yeah.
And I've kind of shifted. I mean, I know this. I know fish and aquariums. I've been doing. Yeah, so this company in London called Uncommon Spaces, they've really sort of gone to town in terms of how they've incorporated sort of biophilic design as sort of like real central to their whole ethos of how to create a welcoming and comfortable space for people to work in. And I think that's kind of where everything, I think like 2018, I noticed a massive sort of attention shift.
What do you think caused that? Because it seems like it's kind of really started to boom over the last few years almost. Kind of everyone's like, it's a real buzzword. Like, my family business is in flooring, so commercial flooring, that sort of thing, and kind of their range of products has kind of changed and developed over the years. So if I look at kind of in our showroom, actually it's on our social media page, FLR group. That as soon as you walk in, the main floor in probably like a room about the size of this room is purely from recycled fishing nets. So that's what the floor is actually made from.
Okay.
So purely recycled. It's called so it's Interface. Their new office is actually just opened around the corner from you. Have you been there?
No, but
it's amazing. Like, you'd love it. Like all of this, kind of like biophilic design, proper, amazing. So kind of it's all Interface. So the actual floor is recycled fishing nets, and again, a lot more kind of like eco-friendly products have started to come in because they've picked up again just from a flooring perspective. The floor has a massive impact on the way that a room's perceived.
Yeah.
So you go back into that biophilic design. If you've got something that's just dark, old, and again, it's that feeling when you walk in of just like, oh. However, if it's exciting and it's
bright green, clear sunlight. I mean, I think my understanding of sort of why biophilic design has become really massive is obviously as we become more and more urbanized, we're spending more and more time at work. And if you look at the problems that people face in sort of certainly Western society, we don't have a saber-toothed tiger threatening to kill us and wipe us out. We don't have marauding tribes coming to take our families away. So if you think of like what are the number one sort of causes of stress and anxiety within an individual, it's usually around social interactions, and then we spend most of our time at work. So those social interactions at work, it was almost as if I feel like the brain sort of like attributed that fight or flight sort of instinct to what's going on with your situation at work and the time that they spend and their job security and how they feel and sort of how they work within the sort of the business space and where they're employed. And I think with more and more companies spending more and more on sort of like, so more and more companies are now spending huge amounts of efforts to basically improve the way that the people in their workspace basically can work with the wider community and their clients. I think creating that client experience has a massive impact on sort of retention of clients, referrals, and if you're able to basically look after the people that you're working with, that are working with you, and you're less likely to turn over. Your staff turnover is reduced massively.
Yeah, because also it shows that we've kind of spoken mainly I have anyway, about employees. But actually, if you look at employers, by showing that intention to your employees that look, I'm doing this for you, that actually this is to improve your overall experience working for me. My boss cares about me and he cares about my welfare. So one, they're probably more likely to go and produce. They're more likely to work harder and actually care about it. Because that is kind of a small issue that that people just turn up to work, pick up their paycheck and go home. They don't actually care whether their work's good or not.
Well, happiness has become the sort of the new metric for success.
Yeah.
So there's a statistic that companies that have higher sort of happiness rating in terms of the employees, the happier the employees, they turn over 3 more times revenue. They're more profitable because they're spending, they're basically able to keep staff, and staff are basically able to, but they're not spending money.
We're not spending time going out and finding new staff, retraining and time more than anything. Because it's like, let's say you've got a marketing person, someone in the marketing department, and they leave. Well, now, one, I've got to spend time finding someone else. So, I spend money on recruitment fees, time and energy on recruitment fees. Then also, any form of marketing we were doing at that time needs to be filled by someone else, which means that whatever they were doing, they're not able to do at 100%. They're now split doing someone else's job. So you might even have to put a campaign on hold, which again, it's not just, we spoke about, it's not just the financial cost, it's the overall hassle of having to find someone else to go and do that job, which means your business isn't...
And your focus isn't on actually creating value for your clients. And
then as a business owner, then their anxiety increases and they're more focused on the issues as opposed to actually my business is going that way and it's being taken care of.
And I think basically sort of creating a positive physical environment is more of a proactive way of preventing the issue of people sort of moving on and not being happy in their space. And I'm not necessarily saying that the physical space is 100% the number one thing. But it's a factor, like we're talking about, having small...
It could be that 1-2% that changes.
Makes a difference, that's it.
100%. So what's happening here then?
Right, so this has literally been a very quick planting aquascape. So I've pretty much planted it really heavily.
Okay, so what does that mean by that?
So basically, normally, you'd split the plants apart and you'd put them in delicately and you'd probably normally give it sort of time to sort of establish and grow slowly. But we don't have CO2, we don't have a filter in this, so we need to basically, for the plants to just go from day dot and go straight away, start growing and basically doing all the good stuff that the plants do, which is they basically consume the nitrates and all the pollutants produced by the fish and just basically just create a nice balanced ecosystem and prevent algae from basically taking over. And
okay, so what's the problem with algae then? Because I'm a complete novice on this sort of stuff.
Well, firstly, it doesn't look very nice. Is
that the green sludge?
That's right, yeah. Okay. So in nature, you will always get algae on every surface.
Yeah.
But in an aquarium, you don't want to see algae.
No,
you want it to look pristine. So it's ironic actually. So whilst we're saying we're sort of creating a slice of nature, we're sort of tweaking it very slightly so it looks aesthetically pleasing. But what you will find in very balanced ecosystems is that the proportion of algae to sort of living plants is relatively low. So there'll be more living plant biomass than there is algae biomass. And when an ecosystem goes out of balance, i.e., say for example, a farmer in a local field basically dumps all their waste and it ends up into the river, and then you get a bloom of algae. That basically throws the whole ecosystem out of kill, because the algae will basically sort of exponentially grow out of control, die, and then just create all sorts of problems within the tank, within the ecosystem. So what we try to do is basically avoid that explosion of algae within this tank, because what will happen is you'll cover all the plants and it won't look very pretty.
Question answered.
So what we've got about 4 or 5 different species of plant, and try to keep it really simple, just to kind of give that impact in terms of the visual appeal. So these plants here, these will grow quite large.
But to ask that, will they kind of fill out the bowl?
Pretty much, yeah. So these ones, these ones will basically sort of form like a carpet around the bottom edge. Mm-hmm. These will sort of stem up and grow. So we'll need to keep trimming those over a period of time, and then this one here will basically be the large centerpiece. And then the idea is to basically have, and then we don't want, with these type of setups, you don't want to put too many fish in. This is why I think the Siamese white is a perfect fish, because
And I mean, it's a cool name as well.
yeah, it's really pretty, it's very attractive, and I think it creates, within itself, it creates enough of an impact for, instead of having to sort of add in loads and loads of different sort of small fish and
It looks awesome.
oversized
Right?
in the tank. So yeah. So what we're going to do, I've got some water from an actual aquarium. So everything we're kind of just trying to give it the best possible start, and then I'll show you. I'll introduce you to your new friend, and then I'll send you on your way. So give me 2 secs. I'll get the water and then we'll get started. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so kind of we spoke about it with Dan, and kind of I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, it's good.
Just having a chat, because I was kind of worried, just like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I was just getting to know you, just like.
Yeah, well, it'd be great to, kind of, because this is honestly, like, I remember when you showed me the videos of this, I was just like, I never genuinely knew a fish tank could be so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've had fish before, goldfish.
Yeah.
So it was me and my ex-girlfriend, actually. We won't go in depth about that one. But so I got her a fish, and it was literally just like your typical, just some little rocks there, and then this fish just kind of like swam around, and just, I was just like, But then I remember kind of, because you showed me your stuff, and then I just looked all over your social media page, and I was just like, yeah.
It's an art form.
And then when I went to see you at Lightbox as well, that tank there.
Oh yeah.
So, wow. Honestly, so impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be great to get you on.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Enjoy that.
So what are you doing here then?
So the tank that I've harvested from Lightbox one, you know. What do you say? That this is their tank water.
Yeah.
So I harvested.
Cheers, chaps.
Yeah. Thanks, BJ. So I got that. I think I picked it up like maybe a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
So it's still warm. And
So what's with the bag?
so the bag's just to stop the water from crushing the plants in the tank.
Okay.
We don't want to do is damage it. So it's a little bit cloudy. Obviously, we need time to settle.
Yeah. So what's caused the cloudiness?
Just because it's from a pre-existing aquarium, so you got all the fish poo and all the good stuff, all the ecosystem kickstarters all in there. So it's all, and then obviously the water from the tank. What I did was, when I did it during the water change, and I basically squeezed a bit of filter juice in there as well. So this tank is pretty much an already up and going ecosystem. So I'll just spread out these leaves. And I'll show you your light. What's the damaged leaf there? Take him out.
Can you eat that?
Cool. Some of the stuff's gonna float because it's just in there. Use rocks to bury it. So literally, I've got. There's a carpet of this stuff. I don't know. Have you ever seen the carpet of that growing in the light box? This stuff.
Yeah.
Sagittarius.
Awesome. So will that grow up?
It will probably be double
Will it
in
just
height
kind of
and
like
height,
okay?
and then just sort of grow out. So what it will do eventually is the tank will sort of find its own balance.
Mm-hmm.
Then it is there. So that's that all lit up.
So going forward, once we've kind of got through the growth process at the start, how often do I need this light on?
So I'll give you a timer, and you'll want
Okay.
to put this on about sort of 8 hours a day.
Okay, every day.
Every day.
Okay.
So for the first 2 to 3 weeks, I'll probably reduce that down to every 5 hours.
Yeah.
Give the plants a chance to sort of grow without the algae taking over.
Okay.
But then after that point, once the plants are growing and everything's doing what it's supposed to do, we could 8 hours a day.
Nice.
You get to a point where you're wondering why you'd be annoyed at how often you'd have to sort of keep this trimmed up, and yeah, I'm quite pleased with how it is.
It's awesome. And how long does it take for the water to clear up?
Well, we'll probably you probably just need to do a couple of water changes
Mm-hmm.
to get it absolutely crystal clear, but so I'll probably take some of this water out. Right, so this is, can we give him a name?
Oh. Can you leave it with me?
Yeah, let me know.
I mean, this is very important. This is the first person I've let back in my life for a good year now, so.
So he's come from he's come from the same water as where this has come from. So he'll acclimatise to, well, it's not acclimatisation, it's pretty much the same thing.
So so Siamese, then that means they're South Asian then, sure?
Yeah, they come.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they're from sort of Thailand.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you doing? Here's what I made.
Hello. So it's quite a young one then, is it? Or are they just naturally quite small?
Yeah, they're not big fish, and that's the beauty of it. We don't want
Yeah.
large fish that produce a lot of waste.
Yeah.
So we want to just sort of create a perfect balance, because eventually, once everything's settled down, we'll add some shrimps in there to help eat the algae and keep everything looking nice and clean.
Awesome.
But that's pretty much it. I'll just tidy off and clean up, and then that'll be it.
That is so much better than a goldfish. So feeding wise, what do I feed him with?
So I'll give you some flakes,
Mm-hmm.
which you can feed him with. You want to probably, for the first week or so, you probably want to feed him, I don't know, just maybe 2 or 3 flakes.
Okay. Once a day.
Once a day. And then once he's settled, once the plants are growing,
Mm-hmm.
everything's nice and settled in, you can increase that. You kind of sort of like work out how much. You can probably give him flakes in the morning, and then sort of 1 or 2 pellets in the evening. And the idea is that the healthier the fish is, the less likely it's going to sort of be prone to like diseases and stuff. As long as we keep the water quality good, don't overfeed them. You should be just fine.
So once a day, 2-3 flakes. Cool. Love the
His tail.
tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very normal, very flamboyant looking fish. Let's give the glass a bit of a clean.
So if you could have any fish at home, what would it be? One of those.
Yeah.
Why?
Easy.
Okay. Right. Okay.
I'm big on setting up any kind of aquarium system that's easy to look after, because the moment it starts becoming hassle
Yeah.
is the moment you start doing the things you need to do on a regular basis.
So would you recommend that in a workplace as well?
So with the work, with this sort of size aquarium, anything sort of around sort of 10 to 20 litres, then yeah,
One of those.
one of these.
But let's say we're going a bigger one. So you're going into an office now, and I say, right, okay, buy into the fish, everything.
Yeah,
What fish are we going?
tetras. Anything small that shows.
Small shark. Okay, they all flamboyant colours then. Quite
No, just small fish that move around in the group.
Oh, okay.
And I always go for that because they'll create an impact visually, because they'll create a lot of movement. They're small, so they won't have as much of an impact in terms of the amount of waste they produce. And then there's like an infinite variety of colours and shapes that you can get with shoulder fish. I mean, the other fish from the Tetra family and the Raspora family, the Raspora is in the light box tank,
Okay.
light box aquarium. So, and they're easy. They're quite hardy, and they're sort of really low demanding. So from my perspective, for me, sort of setting up clients,
Less work.
less work. And we really focus on creating a visual impact on what's in the tank. So how do we furnish it? How do we aquascape it? What kind of plants do we put in there? Where do we position them?
So how would, again, what you do in like a big tank in a business,
Yeah.
how would that differ to what we've just done there?
So
Or would it be the same sort of process, just on a bigger
well,
scale?
I wouldn't put an aquarium like this in a business environment.
So what would you go with?
But the reason is because there's no filter. So with you, because you're at home, you'll be at home every day, so you'll be attentively looking at it and looking out for any issues, anything that can potentially go wrong. I would say for the first week, just call me every day. Just do like a WhatsApp video. You just let me just see what's going on with your bowl, and just make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But within the business environment, everyone's busy working. They ain't got time to be
Messing around
yeah,
with the tank.
I wouldn't want a director to come. Hey, this aquarium,
It's on fire.
it's reducing my productivity, because everyone's looking at.
Yeah.
Everyone's spending their time
Doing the opposite.
Yeah. So yeah, normally I really try and set up really easy to maintain aquariums that sort of look after themselves, and they don't really require much sort of input from myself or the client.
What's kind of your process? So like, if I kind of went to you now, so like, I've got a business, really buy into your whole idea, sort one for me. What do you kind of go about? How do you go about doing that?
So the first thing I'll do is I'll actually look at your brand.
Okay.
I'll look at your brand and I'll kind of get a feel for what's your philosophy, what's your ethos, and also what kind of colour schemes I could work with. And the next thing I'll look at is how many employees do you have?
Yeah.
Because that gives me an idea of what sort of size aquarium or how many aquariums will be ideal for a particular cell,
Okay.
that particular space. Normally I go on the rule of thumb of like a 600 mil by 600 mil aquarium, ideal for sort of 10 people. So if you've got sort of 20 to 30 people or 40 people in your working environment, 2 aquariums would be like a good thing to sort of incorporate as a design feature, just located in different parts of the building, to sort of create the benefits of having that aquarium in their space.
There's no point having 50 people there with the aquariums all the way down there.
100%.
Yeah.
And also as well, like, it's always great when you especially when they're doing like a refurb, you're sort of getting in at that stage, because you can sort of add a few design features to make the whole aquarium run a lot easier. For example, you could link the aquarium up to the mains and the drainage. And by doing that, you can automate those water changes that you need to do once a week.
Can we get that in my house?
The systems that we create for offices and businesses are like sort of worlds
Very
apart from-
efficient.
very efficient.
Very efficient.
But this is sort of like a nice hobby, sort of something to do.
It'll keep me occupied.
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah. So you're not stressing about clients, but when you're just stressing about anything in life, anything.
My cricket batting average this season's been.
How is it?
Oh,
So zen out for this.
I will.
Spend a bit of time with whatever you name him,
Yeah,
and
I'll keep you posted.
take some time out. But yeah, definitely, we'll definitely want to catch up at some point in the next month or so.
100%. Yeah,
We'll come and see how it's looking, and
yeah.
we'll come to your house.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No worries.
I'm very excited about it.
Mm.
Honestly, so impressive. So impressive.
Yeah, it's good.
And
You look good.
Again, like I said, so much cooler than, like I said, just my original idea. Oh, I'm just going to get, and I mean, literally, it had just been a bowl
Yeah.
with a fish in there, just swimming around.
Yeah.
And again, because that's, kind of cool and a lot more vibrant, it's like, actually, I want to look after it, as opposed to, it's just a fish, kind of.
If it does, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not nice to think about, but it's kind of like, that's where people hear. However, this, it's like, it's proper like, actually, it's almost like a piece of furniture in my house now.
Art. It's a piece of living art.
Yeah.
It's a piece of living art.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but when I created ViDERE, when I was sort of setting up the brand and sort of working out ideas.
how long was that taking?
I think the original concept probably took me about a year of playing around with different concepts. I didn't go to a branding guy or a branding company. I kind of sort of pulled it out of my own head, and then it was like when I launched the business, we did it was an art gallery, and it sort of lent itself to what I do. So nature is art, and I use nature as the sort of the medium to sort of
I
express.
think inside, just go with something. You just gotta just something in your gut just tells you, right, this just feels right. Like, hey, the way I'm doing it might not be it, but I know I'm going in the right direction.
Right,
and it is, and eventually, again, you end up finding yourself here, and you're like, yes, this is exactly what I've been going for, and it's not easy, kind of, especially being on your own with it. Like we said, it's difficult, and I'm especially lucky. I've got people really close to me who have really helped me through my the last sort of 3 years really. But look at kind of when I first started out, there is that branding point of view. Now I just finished uni. I didn't have money to go to a branding agency, marketing, everything. I mean, literally, it was. One of my closest friends, he's a graphic designer. So we went to uni together. He just finished his degree in graphic design, and and I said, look, can you just help me out? I have no idea about business. He had no idea about business, and we literally just sat together for a whole week, paid him some money. I'm a big believer, don't do anything for free. Paid him some money. And we just out of nowhere, just bounced off each other. We had a lot of hummus. 3 times of hummus a day. But it was by the end of it, all this sort of stuff just comes out your head. And I look back now at the stuff I was put, I'm horrified. At what you started off with, but just getting it out there and then gradually building.
I think I had a light bulb moment because I think at one point it started out from, because initially the business was called Aquafront, and then it turned to integrated aquariums, and that was kind of like a reflection of my journey. So originally I was setting up just regular aquariums and pet shops, and then I started integrating them into people's homes, and then at some point it just didn't quite encapsulate everything that I did. So then I called the company ViDERE, and ViDERE is Latin for view. And I thought everything I do is just about creating that view, creating that sort of visual experience with someone in the space.
Yeah, mine was the same. It was, I need a name for my company.
Yeah.
What do I go about? And it got to the point where we were on Google Translate,
Yeah,
throwing
I did the exact same thing.
Swedish words for nutrition and this sort of thing. And what came out, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then again, it's that light bulb moment. It's I am my business. My clients buy me.
Yeah.
They don't buy the textbook or the journal articles I learned from.
That's it.
They buy me. So it's, what do I call my business? Well, me.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It's CW, Callum Walker. So you kind of, again, you just have these moments, but it's about being able to just start.
Yeah.
I think where a lot of people get caught up and they don't get success with anything is that they've got a great idea, but they wait until it's perfect. And like I said, I look back at what I first showed my client, what I first offered my clients, whether it be an athlete, weight loss client,
Yeah.
business or whatever, you know, the actual instruction behind it was fine, you know, and the science behind it. The way it was presented, I look back, I'm like,
Callum, my first client, I remember my first bespoke client,
Yeah.
I hand drew their designs using pencil and Crayola crayons. Literally, like I'm at the moment, I'm using like SketchUp and I'm rendering designs and doing full on 3D CGIs, but it's funny, I've still got the original design that I did years ago, and it's just
it's so important to look back on.
yeah.
Like,
Get perspective on it. Get perspective.
and like, because I've been going for 3 years now, and I remember my first client. She's an amazing woman. Like, she's one of my mum's closest friends, and she's hot on business, everything.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, I just need to lose a bit of weight." So I was like, "Okay, yeah." She goes, "Come and see me." It was January the 17th, 2017. Can always remember these like important dates.
Yeah.
Sat there, and she goes, "So what can you do for me?" And I'm like, "I can make you lose weight."
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She goes, "How much is that going to cost?" I'm like, no idea. And I go, "Well, the personal trainer down the road is charging 30 quid an hour, so I'll go with 30 quid an hour." So she just goes, "Right, okay, I want you to see me 6 times over the next 6 weeks, every week, and I'll pay 180 quid. And she wrote this check out, handed it to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was a student at the time, 180 quid.
Yeah, it's a lot
I was
of money,
like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
like, I'm on top of the world
made
here."
it.
Yeah, like, "Oh, this is it,
Yeah.
like, this is it. I've just been given 180 quid for, 30 quid an hour."
Yeah.
Like, wow. And for my first year, I think I averaged turnover about 300 to 400 pounds a month. So I was like, I mean, that's quite bad.
Start off, innit?
I mean, it was quite painful.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, you question yourself, like, even got to a point, September, starting in January, September, even my mum and dad said, maybe we should start looking at jobs. Maybe you should start getting a job.
Yeah.
Because 300-400 quid. And I always had in my head, I was like, look, someone said, "Well, how much do you want to earn?" And I was like, well, it's not about the money. It's like, well, how much would I earn if I came out of uni as a grad on any form of salary? What would my first salary be?
Yeah.
And the average salary, sports science degree, 24 grand.
Okay.
So average that, £2,000. So I had in my mind that all I want to do is just
Get
earn
that to that point.
£2,000 in a month, because I can prove to myself I can make this a job. I can do it. And it's amazing how you do this. And I literally sat down and said, right, I am earning £2,000 this month. This is it. And it was in September. It's funny how these things happen, because you meet the right people and they put you in the right places.
Yeah.
2,100. And I was just like, yes.
That's what we
And then from then on, it's not about, like, it's not, I'm sure it's the same. I'm pursuing my passion and my hobby.
Yeah.
You get to make a difference in people's lives.
I think that's the big thing for me. It's like you make that shift from I want to do this for me because I enjoy doing this to what I do actually has a massive benefit to people in the world, and sort of using that as sort of like your compass to sort of direct all your decisions that you make.
If you just do a good job for someone,
Create value, innit?
yeah, and I think that's the problem. Like, especially my industry,
Yeah.
there's so many cowboys out there who are just selling like flogging diet plans and this. It's like, me, that I don't recommend any supplements or products to anyone almost. So kind of, in my master's degree, I specialised in supplementation protocols, and out of the thousands of supplements available, you've only got like 5 or 6 that actually do anything.
Okay.
So if you're an everyday person, I wouldn't recommend anything. But I get hounded by like your network marketing companies, this and this, and this is the next product. And my clients trust me, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's on a one-to-one basis, whatever I tell them, they'll do it. So, I could make an absolute killing money-wise by just saying you need to take this and this because they buy it, but it just wouldn't sit right. And it's the same sort of thing, that it's your values, i.e., like that. I've got someone in my home now that is actually gonna I know exactly where I'm going to put it. It fits right next to, I've got like a little French doors almost, right next to that, and it will almost like kind of complete my home almost. And I can't thank you enough, honestly. This is awesome.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for coming through. It's been a
Pleasure,
really
mate.
interesting touch out. I think I've learned a lot. Hopefully, everyone else who's everyone else who's watching has learned something as well. And I'll catch up with you very, very soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me, sir.
thank you for watching the ViDERE podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow, like, and subscribe on the button below. You can follow me on my social channels, which is Instagram and Twitter, which is AkilGB, and the work that we do within the company, which is ViDERE Aquariums.